Fantasy basketball managers, you are in your fantasy basketball playoffs. I am outside in the cold with a lot of wind. I hope it's not too crazy on this mic. In this episode, I'm gonna give you 3 tips to help you maximize your week-to-week matchups in fantasy basketball for the playoffs. The first tip is I want you to be proactive. What do I mean? I want you to set your lineups for the entire playoffs, not just this week, but for the whole playoffs, right? And what I want you to do is start thinking about who you're gonna drop right now. So for example, I have Kelly Olynyk on my team right now. He's not gonna play on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. So I'm gonna let him play on Monday, but I know that I'm dropping him as soon as the games start on Monday, and then I'm gonna pick somebody up for Tuesday or Wednesday, right? So that's kind of how you wanna look at it. If a player's not gonna be active for a couple of days, a good example for this season is the Charlotte Hornets, for example. They have 2 games this week. The Dallas Mavericks, they have 2 games this week. So players like Vasily Misi, Tim Hardaway Jr., any of these kind of guys, you can think about dropping them. And even some of those middle tier guys like Miles Bridges, depending on your situation, you might even want to consider dropping them if you have to. Tip number 2, now that you know who you're going to drop, you want to find out who you're going to add. So what I would do is I would go to the waiver wire, go over to the free agency pool and start looking at players who fill the slots on the days that you need players. What I would do is click watch list, but make sure, this is a ninja trick, y'all, make sure your watch list is clear before you start. I just restart every single day after I pick up the players. So go ahead and look at who you want to pick up and then put them on your watch list. Tip number 3, and this one is the most important one, y'all. Make sure after you know who you're gonna drop, you know who you're gonna pick up, make sure that you're the first person to the party. The early bird gets the worm. So what I want you to do is find out when tip-off is and set an alarm clock, right? So tip-off tonight, for example, is 7 p.m. I'm gonna set an alarm for 6:45, 6:50 to make sure as soon as the tip-off goes off that I'm gonna go ahead and start grabbing my players. Now, depending on what platform you're on, it might be a little different, but for ESPN, for example, all you have to do is be there on the dot. Once the games have started, you can safely grab the players that you have on your watch list and go ahead and load them into your roster. Now, you don't just do this once, you rinse and repeat. Do it every single night until you bring home that fantasy championship. That wind is really blowing. If you need more help with your fantasy team, check out this playlist.